The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured gardens of Kensington Palace as Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana of Cambridge stepped carefully along the gravel path, her small hands clutching a velvet pouch that seemed almost too precious for her 9-year-old fingers to hold. The weight of the coins inside created a gentle tinkling sound with each step, a melody that matched the rhythm of her excited heartbeat. Today was different from any other day in her young royal life, and she knew it. Charlotte had been preparing for this moment for weeks, ever since she had overheard her father, Prince William, discussing the ancient tradition of challenge coins with her grandfather, King Charles III, during one of their Sunday afternoon teas. The conversation had sparked something within her curious mind, a desire to understand the deeper meanings behind the ceremonies and customs that surrounded her daily existence. Unlike her older brother Prince George, who sometimes seemed overwhelmed by the weight of future responsibility, Charlotte had always shown a natural inclination toward understanding the traditions that bound their family to the nation. The idea of challenge coins fascinated her completely. These weren't ordinary coins like the ones she had seen in museums or the commemorative pieces that bore her own image from her christening years ago. Challenge coins were special tokens of recognition, bearing the crests and symbols of military units, given to honor exceptional service and dedication. They represented brotherhood, loyalty, and mutual respect among those who served their country. When Charlotte learned that her father had his own collection from his time in the RAF, she had begged to see them, spending hours examining each one while William explained their significance. What captivated Charlotte most was learning that challenge coins weren't just historical artifacts gathering dust in display cases. They were living symbols of appreciation, still exchanged between military personnel and civilians to acknowledge extraordinary dedication and service. The tradition dated back to World War I, when American pilots would carry coins bearing their squadron's insignia as a symbol of unity and belonging. Over the decades, the practice had evolved into a meaningful way of saying thank you to those whose service often went unrecognized by the general public. During that pivotal tea conversation, Charlotte had listened intently as her father described the men and women who stood guard outside their residences every single day. These weren't just ceremonial figures in red uniforms and tall black hats that tourists photographed. They were real people with families, dreams, and sacrifices, who dedicated their lives to protecting the royal family. They stood for hours in all weather conditions, maintaining perfect posture and discipline, rarely acknowledged for their unwavering commitment beyond their regular duties and pay. The Queen's Guard, as they were formally known, represented different regiments of the British Army's Household Division. Some were from the Grenadier Guards, others from the Coldstream Guards, the Scots Guards, the Irish Guards, or the Welsh Guards. Each regiment had its own proud history, its own traditions, and its own stories of courage and dedication spanning centuries. These soldiers had served in conflicts around the world, from the trenches of World War I to modern peacekeeping missions, yet they also undertook the solemn duty of standing watch over the royal palaces. Charlotte began to notice things she had never paid attention to before. When she walked past the guards during her daily routine, she started observing their faces beneath the iconic bearskin hats. She noticed how their eyes remained alert and watchful, constantly scanning for any potential threats. She saw how they maintained their composure even when tourists tried to make them laugh or when weather conditions became uncomfortable. She witnessed their precision during the changing of the guard ceremony, where every movement was executed with mathematical perfection. One particularly rainy Tuesday morning, Charlotte had watched from her bedroom window as a young guardsman stood motionless at his post, rain streaming down his red tunic, his white gloves growing damp as he maintained his grip on his rifle. The sight had moved her deeply. Here was someone not much older than her teenage cousins, standing in the cold and wet, protecting her family while she remained warm and comfortable inside. The unfairness of the situation struck her with surprising force. That evening, Charlotte approached her mother, Catherine, with an unusual request. She wanted to do something special for the guards, something that would show them how much their service meant to her personally, not just as a duty they performed for the crown, but as a gesture of human kindness and recognition. Catherine, who had always encouraged her children to think about others and to use their privileged position to spread kindness, was immediately supportive of her daughter's instincts. Together, they researched the history and meaning of challenge coins more deeply. They learned about the different designs, the symbolism embedded in each element, and the proper protocols for presenting them. Catherine helped Charlotte understand that this wasn't just about giving a gift, but about participating in a tradition that connected military personnel across ranks, branches, and nations. It was about acknowledging shared values of service, duty, and sacrifice. Charlotte decided she wanted to create her own challenge coins, designed specifically to honor the guards who protected her family. Working with the royal household ceremonial experts and coin designers, she began developing a concept that would be both meaningful and appropriate. The design process became an education in itself, as Charlotte learned about heraldry, symbolism, and the careful balance between personal expression and royal protocol. The coins she envisioned would be more than decorative tokens. They would carry her personal seal of appreciation, incorporating elements that reflected both her gratitude and her growing understanding of service. The design would need to be worthy of the tradition it represented while remaining distinctly connected to her own identity as a young member of the royal family who was beginning to understand her role in a larger narrative of duty and service. As Charlotte continued planning her gesture, word of her intention began to spread quietly through the household staff. The news was met with warm approval from her parents and grandparents, who recognized that this initiative represented exactly the kind of thoughtful leadership they hoped to instill in the next generation of royals. This wasn't a publicity stunt or a ceremonial obligation, but a genuine expression of empathy and respect from a child who was learning to see beyond her own comfortable world. The weeks of preparation that followed would test Charlotte's patience and determination, but they would also provide her with insights into the complexity of royal protocol, the importance of proper recognition, and the power of small gestures to create meaningful connections between different worlds within the same society. The Royal Mint's workshops in Llantrisant, Wales, had seen many prestigious commissions over their 1,000-year history, but the request that arrived on a crisp autumn morning was unlike anything the master craftsman had encountered before. Princess Charlotte's challenge coin project would require not just technical expertise, but a deep understanding of military tradition, royal protocol, and the innocent yet profound intentions of a young girl who wanted to honor those who served her family. Shane Bissett, the director of commemorative coin and medals, personally oversaw the project from its inception. He had worked on coins celebrating Charlotte's birth and christening years earlier, but this commission carried a different weight. Those previous coins were ceremonial pieces marking royal milestones, created primarily for collectors and commemorative purposes. These new challenge coins would be functional tokens of appreciation, designed to be carried and cherished by active military personnel. The design process began with extensive consultations between Charlotte, her parents, and military historians who could ensure the coins would be both meaningful and appropriate within the established traditions of challenge coin culture. Charlotte's initial sketches, drawn with careful attention to details she had researched, showed a sophisticated understanding of symbolism that impressed the adult advisors working with her. Her concepts incorporated elements from the various guards regiments, the royal family's heraldic symbols, and personal touches that reflected her own growing sense of responsibility. The final design that emerged from these collaborations was a masterpiece of meaningful symbolism. The obverse featured Charlotte's personal cipher, elegantly intertwined with the crown and rose motifs that represented her connection to both the Welsh heritage through her title and the English royal tradition. Around the edge, inscribed in Latin, were the words gratia in honor, grace and honor, reflecting both her appreciation and the dignity of those being recognized. The reverse side proved even more complex and meaningful. At the center stood a stylized representation of a sentry box with a guard at attention, surrounded by the badges of all 5 regiments of the household division. This inclusive approach ensured that no matter which regiment a recipient belonged to, they would see their own unit represented alongside their brothers in arms. The outer ring contained the inscription for faithful service and steadfast duty in English, making the coin's purpose immediately clear to anyone who examined it. What made these coins truly special was the attention to detail that reflected Charlotte's genuine understanding of military culture. The size and weight were carefully calculated to match traditional challenge coin specifications, ensuring they would feel substantial in the hand while remaining comfortable to carry in a pocket. The metal composition used sterling silver with gold accents, reflecting the royal connection while avoiding the ostentation that might make military personnel uncomfortable about carrying or displaying them. The production process itself became a lesson in craftsmanship and tradition for Charlotte, who visited the Royal Mint to observe the creation of her coins. She watched as master engravers translated her design concepts into the steel dies that would stamp each coin, learning about the centuries-old techniques that remained largely unchanged despite modern technology. The precision required for each strike, the careful inspection of every detail, and the hand finishing that gave each coin its final polish all reinforced for her the importance of excellence in any endeavor worth pursuing. During her mint visit, Charlotte also learned about the broader history of royal coinage and its role in British society. She discovered that coins bearing royal images weren't just currency but symbols of stability, continuity, and national identity that connected ordinary citizens to their sovereign. This understanding helped her appreciate how her challenge coins would serve a similar function, creating a tangible link between herself and the guards who protected her family. As the production neared completion, Charlotte began planning the presentation ceremony with the same careful attention to detail that had characterized the design process. This couldn't be a casual distribution of coins during a routine encounter. The presentation needed to honor both the recipients and the significance of the gesture while maintaining the dignity appropriate to royal protocol. Working with the household cavalry's ceremonial experts and her parents' private secretaries, Charlotte developed a plan that would allow her to personally present each coin while recognizing the formal structure of military hierarchy. The ceremony would take place during a scheduled changing of the guard, allowing Charlotte to honor not just the individuals receiving coins but the entire tradition of royal protection that they represented. The guest list for the ceremony expanded to include representatives from all 5 guards regiments, ensuring that each unit would have witnesses to Charlotte's recognition of their service. Military families were invited, allowing the guards' loved ones to see their dedication acknowledged by the young princess they protected. The event would also include veteran guards who had served the royal family in previous years, creating a bridge between past and present service. Charlotte practiced her presentation speech with her mother's guidance, learning to balance formality with warmth, protocol with personal expression. The words she would speak needed to convey genuine appreciation while respecting military customs about receiving recognition from civilian leadership. Catherine helped her daughter understand that this ceremony was as much about Charlotte learning to fulfill her royal responsibilities as it was about honoring the guards. The coins themselves were housed in individual presentation boxes crafted by the royal household's woodworkers, each one lined with velvet and bearing the recipient's name and regiment engraved on a small brass plate. These boxes transformed the coins from simple tokens into lasting mementos that could be displayed with pride in homes and barracks. Charlotte insisted that each box include a handwritten note expressing her personal gratitude, spending hours carefully crafting individual messages that referenced specific observations she had made about each guard's service. As word of the upcoming ceremony spread through military circles, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Senior officers who had initially been concerned about potential protocol breaches found themselves moved by the genuine nature of Charlotte's initiative. Veterans who had served the royal family for decades spoke about how meaningful it would be to receive recognition not just for their professional duties but for their human dedication to protecting a family they had come to care about personally. The media attention surrounding the announcement was carefully managed to focus on the tradition and meaning behind challenge coins rather than on Charlotte as an individual celebrity. Royal communications specialists worked to educate the public about military culture and the significance of these tokens, using Charlotte's gesture as an opportunity to highlight the often unrecognized sacrifices made by those who serve in protection details. In the days leading up to the ceremony, Charlotte found herself both excited and nervous about the responsibility she had undertaken. This was her first major independent royal initiative, and she understood that its success or failure would influence how future similar projects might be received. The weight of representing her family's gratitude properly, while staying true to her own motivations for beginning the project, created a tension that helped her understand some of the pressures her parents faced in their public roles. The final preparations included rehearsals where Charlotte practiced the precise movements and words that would make the ceremony both smooth and meaningful. She learned about military etiquette, proper methods for presenting awards, and the importance of making eye contact and speaking clearly when addressing each recipient individually. Every detail was considered and planned, ensuring that nothing would distract from the significance of the moment when tradition, gratitude, and genuine human connection would come together in a gesture that honored both giver and receiver. The morning of the ceremony dawned with the kind of crisp clarity that seemed to promise something significant was about to unfold. Princess Charlotte woke before her usual time, her mind immediately focused on the day ahead. This wasn't Christmas morning excitement or birthday anticipation, but something deeper and more complex, the nervous energy that comes from knowing you're about to step into a role that will test your character and preparation in front of people whose opinions truly matter. Charlotte's usual morning routine had been adjusted to accommodate the ceremony preparations. Instead of her typical breakfast with her brothers, she shared an early meal with her parents, using the quiet time to review her presentation notes one final time and discuss any last-minute concerns. Prince William, drawing from his own military experience, helped her understand what the ceremony would mean to the recipients, while Catherine focused on the presentation skills and emotional preparation that would help Charlotte connect authentically with each guard she would be honoring. The ceremonial uniform Charlotte would wear had been specially created for the occasion, designed to reflect both her royal status and her respect for military tradition. The outfit incorporated subtle military-inspired elements, precision tailoring, structured shoulders, and polished buttons, while maintaining the appropriateness expected of a young princess. Her appearance needed to convey seriousness and respect without suggesting she was playing dress-up or trivializing military culture. As Charlotte prepared for the ceremony, the guards who would be receiving her coins were going through their own preparation process. These men and women had been selected not just for their exemplary service records, but for their embodiment of the values that the challenge coins were meant to recognize. Some had served multiple tours with the Royal Protection Detail, others had distinguished themselves through acts of particular dedication or professionalism that had been noticed by their superiors and colleagues. Sergeant Michael Thompson of the Grenadier Guards had been standing royal watch for 8 years, through state visits, family celebrations, and security alerts that the public never learned about. His colleagues respected his calm professionalism and his ability to mentor younger guards without ever showing impatience or superiority. When he learned he would be receiving one of Princess Charlotte's coins, his first thought wasn't about the honor to himself, but about what he would tell his daughter, who was close to Charlotte's age and had always been fascinated by her father's work protecting the royal family. Lance Corporal Sarah Williams of the Welsh Guards represented a new generation of royal protection personnel, women who had broken barriers while maintaining the same standards of excellence that had defined the Guards for centuries. Her inclusion in the ceremony reflected not just her individual merit, but the evolving nature of royal protection and Charlotte's awareness that service and dedication weren't limited by traditional boundaries. Williams had earned her place through the same rigorous training and assessment as her male colleagues, and her recognition would send a powerful message about merit and equality. The ceremony location had been chosen with careful consideration for both practical and symbolic factors. The event would take place in the courtyard of Kensington Palace, where Charlotte had first begun observing the guards and developing her appreciation for their service. The setting provided natural acoustics for her address, appropriate sightlines for the invited guests, and a backdrop that reflected the everyday environment where these guards performed their duties. As the appointed hour approached, Charlotte made her way to the courtyard with her parents, carrying the velvet case containing the coins she had spent months planning and preparing. The weight of the case in her hands served as a physical reminder of the responsibility she was undertaking and the care that had gone into every aspect of this gesture. Each step brought her closer to a moment that would test everything she had learned about leadership, appreciation, and the balance between personal sincerity and public duty. The assembled gathering included not just the guards who would receive coins, but representatives from all the regiments of the household division, military families, palace staff who worked closely with the guards, and a carefully selected group of media representatives who would document the ceremony for public record. The diverse audience reflected the broad impact of the Guards' service and the wide recognition that Charlotte's gesture represented. When Charlotte began her prepared remarks, her voice carried clearly across the courtyard, reflecting the weeks of practice she had invested in preparing for this moment. She spoke about her growing awareness of the Guards' daily sacrifices, her research into the tradition of challenge coins, and her desire to create a tangible symbol of appreciation that would honor both the individuals present and all those who had served in royal protection roles throughout history. "These coins represent more than my personal gratitude," Charlotte said, her words carefully chosen to acknowledge the broader significance of the ceremony. "They represent my family's recognition that your service requires not just professional skill, but personal sacrifice and dedication that often goes unnoticed by those you protect. Each of you has demonstrated that the best traditions of military service, courage, loyalty, and selfless dedication continue to live in each generation. The individual presentations that followed became the heart of the ceremony, as Charlotte moved from recipient to recipient, offering each guard their coin while speaking personally about their specific contributions to royal protection. These weren't generic thank you speeches, but individual recognitions based on Charlotte's own observations and research into each person's service record. Her comments reflected genuine knowledge of their work and personal appreciation for their dedication. When Charlotte presented Sergeant Thompson with his coin, she mentioned specifically his role in mentoring younger guards and his consistent professionalism during difficult assignments. She had learned about his approach to leadership through conversations with palace staff who had observed his interactions with newer team members. Her recognition of these details meant more to Thompson than any formal commendation could have, because it showed that someone had been paying attention to the aspects of his service that mattered most to him personally. Lance Corporal Williams received her coin along with recognition not just for her professional excellence, but for her role in expanding opportunities for women in royal protection. Charlotte's comments about breaking barriers while maintaining standards reflected her understanding that progress and tradition could coexist when driven by merit and dedication rather than politics or symbolism. The emotional impact of the ceremony became apparent as Charlotte continued through the presentations. These were military personnel trained to maintain composure under all circumstances, yet several had to blink back tears as they received their coins and heard their service recognized by the young princess they had been protecting. The moment represented a rare intersection between the formal protocols of royal life and genuine human connection. Each coin presentation was accompanied by Charlotte's personal note, handwritten messages that would become treasured keepsakes for the recipients and their families. These notes went beyond the formal language of the ceremony to express Charlotte's individual appreciation for each guard's service. The time she had invested in crafting these personal messages showed a level of thoughtfulness that elevated the entire gesture from ceremonial obligation to meaningful recognition. The ceremony concluded with Charlotte's invitation for the guards and their families to join her for refreshments, creating an opportunity for less formal interaction that allowed the human connections begun during the presentations to develop further. This reception became as meaningful as the formal ceremony itself, as barriers between royal protocol and military tradition temporarily dissolved in conversations about service, family, and shared values. As the day's events drew to a close, Charlotte found herself changed by the experience in ways she hadn't anticipated. The planning and execution of the ceremony had taught her lessons about leadership, responsibility, and the power of recognition that would influence her approach to royal duties throughout her life. More importantly, she had discovered that genuine appreciation, properly expressed, could create connections that transcended the formal boundaries of royal life while still respecting the traditions that gave those boundaries their meaning and importance. The ripple effects of Princess Charlotte's challenge coin ceremony extended far beyond the walls of Kensington Palace, creating waves of interest, appreciation, and thoughtful discussion throughout military communities, royal watchers, and the general public. What had begun as a 9-year-old's desire to thank the guards she saw every day evolved into a catalyst for broader conversations about recognition, service, and the evolving role of the younger generation of royals in connecting with those who serve the crown. In the weeks following the ceremony, stories began emerging from the recipients and their families about the personal impact of Charlotte's gesture. Sergeant Thompson discovered that his daughter had begun asking more detailed questions about his work, showing a new pride in her father's role that hadn't existed before. The coin and Charlotte's personal note had been framed together in his family's living room, becoming a conversation starter for visitors and a source of pride for his entire extended family. Lance Corporal Williams found that her recognition had opened doors for discussions about women's roles in military service that went well beyond her individual achievement. Young women considering military careers reached out to her, inspired not just by her professional success but by the fact that Princess Charlotte had specifically acknowledged the importance of breaking barriers while maintaining excellence. The coin became a symbol not just of personal recognition, but of progress and possibility. The challenge coins themselves began taking on lives of their own within military culture. Unlike traditional medals or commendations that might be stored in display cases or safety deposit boxes, these coins were designed to be carried and shared. Recipients found themselves explaining the story behind their coins to fellow service members, spreading awareness of Princess Charlotte's initiative and the thoughtfulness behind her gesture. Within the broader military community, Charlotte's ceremony sparked discussions about the importance of civilian recognition for military service, particularly service that might not involve combat deployments or dramatic heroism but required steady dedication and professionalism. The guards who received coins began hearing from colleagues in other branches of service who expressed appreciation for the visibility Charlotte had brought to the often overlooked aspects of military duty. The Royal Mint reported unexpected interest in the craftsmanship and design elements of Charlotte's coins from collectors and military historians around the world. The coins represented a unique intersection of royal commemorative tradition and functional military recognition, creating a new category that honored both traditions without diminishing either. Requests began arriving for information about the design process and the symbolism embedded in various elements of the coins. Charlotte's parents, Prince William and Catherine, watched the expanding impact of their daughter's initiative with pride and careful attention to the lessons it provided. The success of the project reinforced their approach to raising children who understood their privileged position as an opportunity to serve others rather than simply to be served by them. Charlotte's genuine engagement with the project and her authentic connections with the recipients validated their belief that even young royals could make meaningful contributions to public service when properly prepared and motivated. The media coverage of the ceremony and its aftermath was notably different from typical royal event reporting. Rather than focusing primarily on Charlotte's appearance or the ceremonial aspects of the event, journalists found themselves drawn to the military culture aspects of challenge coins and the significance of civilian recognition for service members. The coverage became educational, helping the public understand traditions they might not have known about while celebrating Charlotte's thoughtful approach to her royal role. International attention began focusing on Charlotte's initiative as an example of how younger royals might bridge traditional ceremonial duties with more personal, direct engagement with those who serve their nations. Royal families from other countries inquired about the process Charlotte had followed and the protocols that had been established for her ceremony, suggesting that similar initiatives might be developed elsewhere. The educational aspect of Charlotte's project continued expanding as she began receiving invitations to learn more about military history and traditions. Museums, military academies, and veterans organizations reached out with offers to help her deepen her understanding of the service traditions she had honored. These opportunities created pathways for ongoing engagement that could extend her initiative beyond a single ceremony into a broader pattern of support for military personnel. Charlotte herself was processing the experience and its aftermath in ways that surprised the adults around her. Rather than being satisfied with the success of her ceremony, she began asking questions about other groups of people whose service might go unrecognized. Palace staff, security personnel who weren't part of the ceremonial guard units, and civil servants who supported royal activities all became subjects of her curiosity and concern. The challenge coin tradition itself began evolving within the royal protection community as a result of Charlotte's initiative. Senior officers started considering how similar recognition programs might be implemented within their regular operational procedures, creating systems for acknowledging exceptional service that went beyond traditional military decorations. Charlotte's ceremony had demonstrated the power of personal recognition in ways that formal commendations sometimes couldn't achieve. The woodworkers who had crafted the presentation boxes for Charlotte's coins found themselves receiving inquiries from other military units and civilian organizations interested in similar recognition programs. The craftsmanship and attention to detail that had made Charlotte's presentation memorable were inspiring others to elevate their own appreciation ceremonies beyond simple certificate presentations or generic awards. Letters began arriving at Kensington Palace from military families around the world, sharing their own stories of service and sacrifice while expressing appreciation for Charlotte's recognition of the guards who protected her family. These personal testimonials provided Charlotte with insights into the broader military experience and reinforced her understanding that her gesture had resonated far beyond its intended recipients. The long-term implications of Charlotte's Challenge Coin initiative began taking shape as discussions started within the royal household about how this approach might be incorporated into regular royal protocols. The success of her direct, personal engagement with service members suggested that similar initiatives might be developed for other aspects of royal appreciation and recognition, creating new traditions that honored established protocols while reflecting contemporary values and communication styles. Charlotte's teachers at school reported noticeable changes in her approach to history and civics lessons following her ceremony experience. Her questions became more sophisticated, her interest in governmental and military structures more focused, and her understanding of service and duty more nuanced. The practical experience of organizing and executing her recognition ceremony had provided educational benefits that traditional classroom instruction couldn't have achieved. As autumn progressed toward winter, Charlotte found herself observing the guards with different eyes than before. Instead of seeing anonymous figures in ceremonial uniforms, she now recognized individuals whose stories she knew and whose service she had personally acknowledged. The ceremonial changing of the guard became more meaningful for her because she understood the traditions and dedication behind the precision movements and formal protocols. The challenge coins had created lasting connections that continued developing through informal interactions. When Charlotte encountered guards who had received her coins during routine palace activities, their brief conversations reflected mutual respect and genuine appreciation that went beyond the formal requirements of their respective roles. These ongoing relationships represented the most significant success of her initiative, proving that recognition properly given could create human connections that enriched everyone involved while still respecting the boundaries and protocols that made such connections appropriate and sustainable. As winter settled over London and the royal palaces took on their seasonal decorations, the legacy of Princess Charlotte's challenge coin ceremony continued to evolve in ways that surprised even those who had helped her plan the original event. What had begun as a single gesture of appreciation had sparked a broader transformation in how the younger generation of royals thought about their relationships with those who served the crown, creating ripple effects that would influence royal protocols and traditions for years to come. Charlotte's initiative had established a new precedent within the royal household, one that emphasized personal recognition and direct engagement over purely ceremonial interactions. Her success in creating meaningful connections with the guards while respecting military protocols and royal traditions had demonstrated that innovation and tradition could coexist when approached with proper preparation, genuine intention, and respect for all parties involved. The challenge coins themselves had become treasured possessions for their recipients, but their value extended beyond their material worth or symbolic significance. They had become conversation starters, teaching tools, and symbols of connection that helped bridge the gap between military service and civilian appreciation. Family members of the recipients reported that the coins had helped them understand and appreciate their loved one's service in new ways, creating broader networks of support and recognition. Within the palace, Charlotte's project had influenced discussions about how other members of the royal family might develop similar initiatives. Her brothers, Prince George and Prince Louis, had observed the positive response to her ceremony and begun asking questions about how they might develop their own ways of recognizing service and connecting with those who supported their family. The success of Charlotte's approach had created opportunities for her siblings to explore their own interests and talents in the context of royal service. The educational aspect of Charlotte's experience continued expanding as she maintained her newfound interest in military history and traditions. She had begun reading about the regiments represented in her ceremony, learning about their battle honors, their roles in British history, and their contemporary missions beyond royal protection duties. This knowledge deepened her appreciation for the complexity and dedication required of modern military service while connecting her to centuries of British military tradition. International recognition of Charlotte's initiative had led to invitations for cultural exchanges with other royal families and military organizations around the world. These opportunities represented potential future engagements that could help her develop a broader understanding of service traditions while representing British values and approaches to military-civilian relations on an international stage. The Royal Mint's experience with Charlotte's coin project had influenced their approach to future commemorative pieces, with increased attention to the functional aspects of royal recognition tokens and their potential for creating lasting connections between the monarchy and those who serve it. The success of combining traditional craftsmanship with contemporary understanding of recognition culture had opened new possibilities for royal commemorative programs. Charlotte's parents had incorporated lessons from her challenge coin experience into their broader approach to preparing their children for royal responsibilities. The project had demonstrated that even young royals could make meaningful contributions when properly prepared, supported, and allowed to follow their genuine interests and concerns. This understanding influenced their approach to all three of their children's development and preparation for future royal roles. The guards who had received Charlotte's coins continued to serve in their protection roles, but their perspective on their service had been subtly transformed by the recognition they had received. The knowledge that their daily dedication was noticed and appreciated by the family they protected added a personal dimension to their professional responsibilities that enhanced their commitment without compromising their military discipline and standards. Letters and messages continued arriving at Kensington Palace from military families, veterans, and service organizations around the world, sharing stories of how Charlotte's gesture had inspired similar recognition programs in their own communities. These initiatives ranged from school projects honoring local veterans to military units implementing their own appreciation ceremonies for support personnel whose contributions often went unrecognized. The woodworkers, engravers, and other craftspeople who had contributed to Charlotte's Challenge Coin project found themselves involved in similar initiatives for other military units and civilian organizations. The attention to quality and detail that had made Charlotte's presentation memorable had set new standards for recognition ceremonies, inspiring others to invest similar care in their own appreciation programs. As the one-year anniversary of her ceremony approached, Charlotte began planning a follow-up initiative that would build upon the success of her Challenge Coin project while addressing new aspects of service and recognition that she had learned about during the intervening months. Her expanding understanding of military culture and royal responsibilities had given her ideas for future projects that could continue developing the connections she had established while reaching new groups of service members. The legacy of Charlotte's Challenge Coin ceremony had become part of the evolving narrative of modern royal service, demonstrating how traditional values of appreciation and recognition could be expressed through contemporary approaches that honored both established protocols and genuine human connection. Her initiative had shown that even young royals could make meaningful contributions to the relationship between the monarchy and those who serve it, when their efforts were guided by sincere appreciation and proper preparation. The challenge coins continued to be carried by their recipients, serving their intended purpose as tokens of recognition while also functioning as symbols of the connection between Princess Charlotte and the men and women who dedicated their lives to protecting her family. Each time a guard reached into his or her pocket and felt the weight of Charlotte's coin, they were reminded that their service was seen, appreciated, and valued by the young princess whose safety depended on their dedication. Looking toward the future, Charlotte's Challenge Coin initiative had established principles and precedents that would influence how she approached royal responsibilities throughout her life. The experience had taught her that effective royal service required genuine engagement with those being served, careful attention to protocol and tradition, and the courage to create new approaches when existing methods might not fully address contemporary needs and opportunities. The ceremony that had begun with a 9-year-old's desire to thank the guards she saw every day had evolved into a model for how the next generation of royals might balance respect for tradition with innovation in service, creating meaningful connections while maintaining the dignity and protocols that gave royal recognition its significance. Charlotte's Challenge Coins had become more than symbols of appreciation, they had become symbols of possibility, demonstrating how genuine care and proper preparation could create lasting positive change while honoring the best traditions of both military service and royal duty. As Charlotte continued her education and development, the lessons learned from her Challenge Coin project would continue influencing her approach to royal service, helping her understand that the most meaningful royal initiatives often begin with simple human observations and concerns, then develop through careful planning, proper consultation, and genuine commitment to honoring those being recognized. The success of her first major independent royal initiative had given her confidence and experience that would serve her well in future endeavors, while establishing her as a thoughtful and engaged member of the royal family who understood that privilege carried with it the responsibility to recognize and appreciate those whose service made royal life possible.